IVM.
Hi listeners, we at Aditya Birla Sun Life Mutual Fund have come up with a special podcast series called MF101 in collaboration with Bloomberg Quint. MF101 is an informative series that will help you understand the recipe behind mutual fund investments. And what's more, it's coming from the chefs of the mutual fund buffet table, from the very own fund managers and analysts who are the manufacturers of the funds that help you realize your investment goals. Hi, I'm Anupam Gupta, B50 on Twitter, and in this episode, we are going to discover the recipe behind emerging sectors from our guest chef, Mr. Kunal Sangoi, who's fund manager and senior equity analyst at Aditya Birla Sun Life Mutual Fund. Kunal, welcome to the show. Before we start the discussion, tell us something about yourself, how you started your career.
Thanks, Anupam, for having me on the show. So I am a CA by qualification and was always wanting to make a career in equity markets. So after qualifying, I joined Edelweiss Securities. There I worked as equity analyst on the IT sector on the institutional desk. So I've been looking at this sector since 2005 and have seen some of the major blow up of Satyam scam and the other things. So since then, almost 13-14 years on the IT sector. After that, I joined Aditya Birla Sun Life Mutual Fund in 2012. So been looking at IT, media, telecom, internet sectors, and also as in the capacity of fund manager in some funds. So it's been a fantastic journey, and I've always wanted to do equity research, and that's what been enjoying that.
Fantastic. So you had a really long period of time to look at these sectors. They're all new in a certain sense, but they've also had their life cycles in the last 10-20 years. Can you tell us something about these sectors? IT, media, telecom, internet, each of them are like one entire sector on their own. But if you consider them all together, what do you think is the approximate size in terms of their revenues or their weightage in the benchmark indices?
Sure. So, I'll take sector by sector. So, as we look at IT sector, so IT is a sector which gave India its recognition on the global map. If you look at from a size perspective, we do about $130 billion of exports annually from the sector and $40 billion of domestic market. So that is in terms of the top line. In terms of the contribution to the GDP, it contributes almost 6% to the GDP. And if you look at the people employed, almost 4 million people work in the sector. So it's fairly large in terms of the impact on the economy. In terms of when you look at in the weightages in the indices, IT sector, it has 14% weight in the Nifty. And if you look at media, that is about 1.5%, and telecom also relatively smaller weight, which is 1.5%. But media and telecom, the way they do impact is again very significant, because media is one where you have print media, broadcasting, multiplexes, and the OTT content players. All these basically give a significant reach to all the Indian residents and citizens. So that is where. And then telecom is a medium through which you reach. So, major disruption happening on the sector in the telecom side. We are seeing a convergence theme starting to work out. So, telecom, media and technology enabling together. So there is a convergence theme through the disruptor, as we know, 2 years back, who entered into the market. That's the kind of, sectors that we are talking about.
They're quite, they have different drivers. They've got different growth drivers. They've got different strengths and weaknesses. This bunch of sectors as compared to, say, more traditional ones like banking or FMCG. Maybe you can tell us something about the strengths and weaknesses of these sectors.
Yeah. So if you look at, IT in terms of the technology. So when you look at, all the clients that they cater to, be it BFSI, retail, telecom, the technology intensity across businesses is increasing, and technology is now no more no more a spend in terms to run the business, but to grow the business you have to invest in technology, and that is what has been the growth driver for the sector. So that is a very key strength that across all verticals is where technology has to be developed and applied into. So that is one. Second is that in terms of media, again, media and telecom is the pipe through which you reach, and media is the platform through which you are reaching all the audiences. So these are critical sectors of the economy which are driving viewership, and which are telecom is the enabler sector. Sure. And IT is enabling it.
So Kunal, all these sectors have new opportunities, and I know for a fact that a lot of them are also enabled by this massive fall in costs of data. I recall 2-3 years ago, the cost of data was where it was. And today I just read somewhere that India's monthly consumption of data is among the highest in the world. Let's have a look at these numbers and tell us what are the new opportunities that you see going forward for these sectors.
What the data usage is enabling is that one is that more and more number of users are coming online and they are experiencing first time internet through mobile. So if you look at the today, India has like 450 million internet users, and that is the second highest in the world. After China.
In absolute numbers?
In absolute numbers.
450 million.
450 million.
For a population of 1.35 billion.
Absolutely.
That's
absolutely.
Huge.
And the second level that is happening is that as you become more familiar using internet online, what's happening is that then you start as you graduate, you start transacting online, and that is driving a lot of commercial activity on the internet, be it in terms of purchases, so that will drive consumption, be it in terms of payments, so which enables the peer-to-peer banking transactions. So if you look at Beam app which is a government app, that is if you look at the number of the value of the transactions, it's growing at a phenomenal pace. Now that is driving a lot of opportunities for companies
across the
spectrum, and more consumers are coming online. That is driving a lot of opportunity online. So that is the whole shift is happening from offline to online in terms of the consumption.
It has a lot of impact on media also, I guess. There's so much of content.
Absolutely.
You see videos that come on WhatsApp and stuff like that. It has impact for content also, the way we consume it, right?
Absolutely. So even if you look at the digital media, I think that is the fastest growing media. Because if you look at TV, print is one where we are continuing to see downward trend in terms of the overall print advertisement revenues. The ad dollars are shifting from print essentially to digital media, and that is where that is a change in the pattern because of particularly all these consumption pattern, more users coming online, more users transacting online.
Sure. So when I look at the disruption space, all I see are startups, really big startups, unicorns, stuff like that, which have been really hot in the last few years. You think any of these startups will remain private forever, or will actually some of them actually move to the public space, giving you as a fund manager an opportunity to invest in them?
Right. So, it's quite going to be a different story here because, all these internet companies, startups, they at their initial first 5 years to 6 years or maybe even up to 10 years, they have to invest to, build the market. And that is where, the profitability is not going to show up. India investors usually have it's a growth market and it's a profit focused market, so we are used to seeing EBITDA or a PAT growth, EPS growth, and that is where it requires a very long term investment thought process, which I would believe that it will take a longer duration for all these startups to come and list in India. We already have couple of internet names which are listed in India. But a big bunch of internet companies, I would foresee that it will take a longer duration for them to come on the bourses.
Great. So what are the trends? I mean, we know for a fact that IPOs of these big companies, that they might happen at a global level, but they're not happening in India, at least in the near future. What are the few major trends that you see going forward, maybe in the next year or 1 or 2 years?
Since the last 4 to 5 years, what has happened is that one is that users who start transacting online in India are close to 80 to 90 million users. I think over the next 3 to 4 years, we'll see that user base growing to 200 million to 250 million in terms of the transacting. And
so that's like saying that out of 450 million who have internet, about 80-90 million are actually transacting. That base will grow.
That base will grow. And, we are seeing a lot of demand coming from tier 2, tier 3 cities. And they are going to start transacting a lot more. And that is going to drive a lot of consumption. So that is one clear trend which is going to pick up. Second is that in terms of the technology, again, we have, technology investments across the sectors are going up. So if you look at, retail and BFSI, they are the sectors where they have a significant investment. They invest a lot more than the manufacturing companies being, B2C focused. So technology in terms of more machine learning, automation, cloudification. Those are the trends which are happening, and which is already driving a lot of demand for Indian tech companies in the US at this point in time. But the same is going to follow in India as well.
What's happening in the US will also translate for good opportunities for the stocks that are listed here in India, right?
Absolutely.
Kunal, thank you so much for doing the show. Folks, that is a wrap on our show. For more such interesting know-hows, continue listening to our podcast MF101, or simply follow the blog page of Aditya Birla Sun Life Mutual Fund, Bloomberg Quint, IBM Podcast, or wherever you get your podcast from. If you have any queries or some specific subject you want us to talk about with regards to mutual fund investment, reach out to us on our Twitter handle @ABCABSLMF. That's @ABCABSLMF. Thank you for listening to this podcast. Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully. The views and opinions expressed herein are personal and do not necessarily reflect the views of Aditya Birla Sun Life AMC Limited, that's ABSL AMC, Aditya Birla Sun Life Mutual Fund, the fund. ABSL AMC, the fund, is not guaranteeing, offering, communicating any indicative yield or returns on investments.
Sachin Tendulkar, Virat Kohli, Don Bradman, and now Cyrus Brocha. Okay, probably not in the right company. I mean, Don Bradman is Australian. But it's called Cyrus Says, a wonderful show about everything. Find the show on the IVM Podcast app, ivmpodcast.com, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Family businesses get a bad rap. At one time, they were looked down on for getting rich, for being too ambitious. Today, they're still looked down on, but for not being ambitious enough. Not agile enough, not modern enough, too traditional in their mindset. The biggest brands and business houses in the country started out as humble family businesses. It's the way India has done business. Join Sonu Bhasin in conversation with stalwarts of Indian family businesses on the Inheritors podcast series by Bloomberg Quint. Discuss the highs and lows, the needs and pressure points of building a business legacy that spans generations.